what's going to be? How's it hanging? How's it happen? You guys know this is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast, sponsored by Dark Fusion Systems, the best for your custom computing needs, whether it is for gaming, whether it is for streaming, music, creative, business, whatever it is. Dark Fusion Systems will build the proper PC for you. Get $100 off your entire bill. Use code CPPOD at darkfusionsystems.com and ship to the podcast below. Thank you guys. Now for feature presentation. Let's get all post-hardcore and even more experimental on you guys. We have Joseph and Boz from the band Capstan on the podcast, and we dive deep into their double album, The Mosaic, why they did a double album, the intricacies behind it, and this is just a great episode if you want to get to know Capstan. Oh my God, are you guys ready? Let's go! Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast. I remember back in 2021, I had a great band called Capstan on the podcast. I can't remember who I had on, but we were talking about this brand new album called Separate. Now it's 3 years later. The band has continued to grow. They went on tour with Holding Absence, one of our great favorite bands out here, to start out the year. And there is a double album coming from them called The Mosaic, coming out on May 24th. And if you like all that post-hardcore glory and some more experimental styles on it, ooh, you found the right podcast and episode for you. So please welcome Boz and Joseph from the band Capstan to the podcast. So gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Kevin,
thank you so much for having us.
Kevin, you could be like the MC at my wedding. Your voice is very, very good.
Oh shit, can I really?
Well, you have that hype, man. You should be announcing for the 1998 Chicago Bulls.
See, I really wish I could have done something like that, or get something here in Milwaukee where it's I could announce for the Bucks or something, or be the PA guy for the Brewers. But they've got somebody that's been doing both of those jobs for 30 plus years, so just might have to bide my time a little bit longer.
Yeah, man, keep putting your resume out there. I think something will come. You're made for this.
Yeah, or I'll just
I could
get
see you in the. I could see you in the WWE ring with the microphone drop down. You're getting it.
See, the problem with that is I would do that, and then instead of podcasting, I just go and end up talking to Pat McAfee and Michael Cole and just seeing how, and also trying to figure out if I can actually see John Cena, but that might be tough.
That's funny.
I mean, why not? We'll give it a shot. But one thing I do want to start out with is the fact that to start out the year, you guys went on tour with Holding Absence, and that's one band I absolutely love listening to, love hearing. And I got to see one of the shows that you guys were on. It took me a while to get down there because I had to travel to Chicago for it and take the train. It was a whole mess. But right when I walked in, I'm like, okay, please, I don't want to miss Capstan. And you guys went on right away. It was fantastic. So I just want to hear from you guys. How did that whole entire tour go?
Yeah, well, that's perfect. I'm glad you made it to the show. But it was an amazing tour. I will say that I have listened to Holding Absence for several years, actually. When we toured the UK in 2019, someone showed me Holding Absence, and I listened to them regularly since then. So to go on tour with a band that you actually enjoy listening to every night it's great. I love that.
Yeah, they I think one of the coolest things for us was they're huge in the UK. They're huge overseas, and obviously a tour like this, I wouldn't put it under the amount of people. It was huge. It was a perfect size tour and it was amazing, but you can really see how current they are and how people are really gravitating towards them on a night to night basis. And with one of those really current bands that's blowing up, it's really hard to say, even if you can go on tours with 1,000 plus people you're playing to every night, 400 to 800, we were playing to every night, but all people that, gave such a shit, for lack of a better term, there's just something special about those tours. And this was one of our favorite, right up there, top favorite tour, maybe, since we've been a band because of that. It was just every band was so great. They led the way every night in their performances. Top notch. One of the best live bands I've ever heard.
Yeah. And I will say also Holding Absence and Casey as well, who's on the tour, I think they're very similar to us in the regard that they have a very dedicated fan base, because that's one thing we've tended to notice with our fans as well, is that they just very dedicated. So I think it's a lot of that kind of translates because we're not exactly there's a certain, I guess, depth that people relate to in our music that like I said is just it's apparent like when they show up and they care so much, you know.
I can understand that because there definitely is a much larger depth to your music than some other bands that I've listened to, or some other bands that have become a lot more popular. But that's just what happens at times. It's nothing against you guys, because I do enjoy the depth that you guys have in your music. But when you're bringing up Holy in Absence, and they do have another dedicated fan base like you guys, they are much bigger overseas. I know right now they're going to be preparing for or they might be on it already, the UK run with Pierce the Veil, doing freaking arenas. And beforehand, like last year, they were opening for Electric Callboy throughout Europe. Like they're huge. Like they're getting big. And when they came over here, because I still remember the show in Chicago, it was the amount of people that were there. No one was really like on their phones or anything, or like kind of like just waiting for one band. Everyone, like you said, was dedicated. Everyone was into it. Everyone was just present in the moment because they wanted to be there, and they enjoyed the music and the depth that each band brought. Whether it was you guys, whether it was Holy in Absence, whether it was Casey, I cannot remember who the opener was, but it didn't really matter. All that mattered was the fact that everyone was there, positively impacted by the music, and able to dive deep into the depths of what you guys are able to offer. That is such a huge key, and you're going to be giving a lot more substance in that case to that size tour than maybe, you know, people that are in arenas and whatnot, just because everyone has different priorities, different prerogatives. In that time frame, you had everyone's attention, and no matter the size of the tour, no matter the size of the show, that's something that is absolutely impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, thank you. I think that's right on, hitting the nail right on the head.
Oh, absolutely. That's what I thought, and I wouldn't want it any other way either, because even when you guys started, like I remember the set too, you guys started out, everyone's like, okay, you're getting into it. Then you started playing some heavier stuff. The pit opened up, and I mean, my face smiled right then and there. I'm like, I got to get into this because yay! Which is one thing I absolutely love about your music too. Not only on several you guys are able to do on the Mosaic, which we will talk about, it's just the fact that you guys have those deeper songs, have the songs of a lot of depth, but you're not afraid to throw a good amount of heavy elements in there as well and have it make sense. It's like you're putting them in there, I would say tastefully, because they're in at all the right moments.
Yeah,
Thank you.
We definitely have had a career of trying to figure out what the hell it is we are. And I think that word has been used a lot. We just are what we are, but we try to do everything tastefully. Not too much of this, not too deep into that. I mean, 18 songs is kind of deep into that. But Joe said it best once. You know, one thing we focus on now is not necessarily being progressive and keeping people on their toes within a song, but across songs. So from one song to the next, it might be a total 180, but we used to kind of blend it all into one song and do that over and over again. And there was a lot of times I think we all agree, we're like, how are people going to know what this even is?
Yeah,
you know?
it used to be more weird, although like we've still got the weirdness, as you know, as you've listened to the Mosaic, and I'm sure we'll talk about. But yeah, just like it just goes, like Boz said, from song to song, and we feel like that honestly is more us anyway. Like yeah, we used to. I mean, we were, especially in the earlier stuff, like definitely quite different in terms of song structure. Like we tended to do a lot less repeating structure and all that, but the truth is, like, the most of the music that we all love the most isn't really like that, though. Like, you know, so like that's what I mean, like being more genuine to ourselves in our writing process is like, how do we make the best song that we think we can make? And like oftentimes, like, even though, you know, we still do some songs that have non-traditional structure, but often it just requires like leaning into tried and true methods, like when it comes to like how you want to structure a song.
And again, that makes sense. Even on the Mosaic too, there are some songs that do have some of that tried and true, just continuous structure. There are some that have the different structure, the oddities in there, but it does make sense to where the genuineness comes in. You guys love to listen to music and you guys love it all over the place, And you guys are really connecting with stuff that sometimes has some more of that similar structure to it. So you're going to put that in more of your music to have it be more genuine to yourselves. However, you are not shying away from the fact that you guys still love to do a bunch of different things. You love to keep people on their toes. And by doing that from song to song instead of within a song consistently and having that healthy mix of, sometimes there's songs that still do that. Sometimes there's songs a little more straightforward. But when you go from song to song, there's going to be this different feel of you're not sure exactly what's going to happen. That's something that really takes a lot of creativity still to have and is not necessarily as much of a hodgepodge mess as it can come across, which, again, that's something that people are really going to be into, just given the fact that you're going to be able to hit on a bunch of different emotions, different stories, different feelings in a completely, unique double album. However, you're going to be able to do it from one spot to the next. And you're going to be able to have this congruency through experimentation and through different sounds.
Oh, yeah. You nailed it, man.
That's very well said. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's like what we think is really what has become like the most true version of our band is like as you go through the album, having like we got to like check off like a bunch of cool things I wanted to do for like we've always like dabbled in the heavy and all that, but like on this record, like I wanted to make it a point to have like a song with no clean vocals on it, like just heavy, like just screaming, and like we got to do that and we're all like really stoked. It's the shortest song on the record pretty much, but we're all really stoked on like doing a song like that, like just something really fucking heavy as hell. And then also experimenting with like we did a song that has banjo on it, like we tracked banjo on the record, like that was really cool. Like we haven't done that yet, so
yeah, I think it was funny going into this record because, three of us during the process are fathers now, and it's just so funny because we're like in our lives in general, like there's so much else going on, and of course this was the record. We decided like let's be whatever it is, let's be the best at what we think we are, and that's why we took into account like really like just banging choruses but then also kind of anything and everything in between. But it's funny that like outside of music, we're going through one of the biggest transitions of our lives and we couldn't stop writing songs. They just kept going. And I think that part of that is because being true to ourselves was just wanting to express so many different sounds, so many different angles in general. And like Joe said, like also still experimenting. And it's just funny because I don't think any one of us, when we started the process, if anyone would have said, let's write 18 songs, we would all said, fuck you, shut up.
It's true. It's true. We talked about it extensively. Like when we started, we're like, it's not going to be some crazy, I couldn't, God, you could not have a more natural product than this record for like a multitude of different reasons. But yeah, like we did not want to do some crazy over the top record, but it just came out that way and it just felt wrong to do anything else. So like, I think that's one of the parts that felt the most special about it.
No doubt.
Well, just thinking about the transition in life that you guys are going through, becoming fathers throughout this process, and just taking into account, trying to figure out what you exactly want to do with your sound. Now, there's a whole entire transition in itself there, trying to really get a further deep dive into who are we, what do we want to be, and then you guys just kind of said, screw it, we're just going to try everything we want to be, and we'll figure it out from there. And a double album then makes sense to get 18 songs in there, to try these different aspects, to put in different sounds, to have a track that has banjo on it, to do a song that has only unclean vocals and some gutturals in there, which I was not expecting. Having something that's sometimes a lot more acoustic, a lot more airy, a lot more light driven, have some songs that have a very large synthwave presence to them. And then even some that when I listen to them, I'm like, this is legitimate Capstan the way I expect them to be from the previous albums. But then everything else that comes there, I'm like, this is still Capstan going forward. You can still tell it's you guys. There's still that huge bombastic flair to your music that is in a lot of these songs, but they're so different through and through, where we're seeing a whole new side of you. But that also coincides with the transitions in life that you're going through and just becoming even greater as a band with a more expansive sound.
And you got some really astute observations over there. Like,
and a good vocabulary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should play more Scrabble than I do, just because, maybe I'd win a little bit more. But
I think I heard a bombastic in there.
You
Man,
did.
Good usage. Wonderful. Very expressive word. I love it. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome. But now going into this specific thing, because I don't know a lot of bands that are doing double albums anymore, and I know you guys had a lot to say on this, but again, was the double album like an idea from the start that you're going to do it, or was this something that just kind of came up and came into fruition over the course of time?
Yeah, it definitely was not the goal, like, to begin with. Like, we really had no intention of doing so many songs, but I guess it was like, as we started to do more of the different, like, very different stylistic songs, like, as we started to incorporate more of, like, opposite ends of the spectrum, like, like you mentioned, the synth wavy track, or like versus like some of the more heavy metalcore, deathcore inspired stuff. Like, as we started to have the more diverse elements and like started like we were, I mean, it was the most inspired I've ever felt in my life. And like, we're all like writing a lot. So like, we all have, there were a lot of songs that we just really liked. So like, it just, the culmination of all the different elements like made it feel like it felt more right to do more different songs, because like, I look at it as like all kind of the subgenres that it contains, and then it's like, well, there's only like 3 metal songs, and then it's like there's only like 3 post-hardcore songs, like, you know what I mean? Like, so I think that like really made it feel kind of natural, like doing that many tracks.
Yeah, I think when you take a step back and look at it, at least from my perspective, one of the coolest things to me, I'm not as hands-on with the creation of the actual music. I help with the production, obviously with vocals, try to coax melodies. Like, we kind of all have played our roles, but this was a really interesting record because there's been different points in the band where like one person has, or 2 people have kind of taken a lead on things. But this record like really stands out because it was like the most people contributing in the most ways. And I think with 18 songs, what you ended up with that I find so fascinating is when you think about it, it's like, okay, yeah, this is crazy. We obviously started writing more music that we liked. And like, when we heard those demos and things start coming out, you're like, oh damn, like these songs are good. And this one's in this genre and this one's completely different. But what's amazing about 18 songs is that because we really were able to express, like you said, those genres and subgenres, as the record went on, when we kind of started realizing we were doing that many songs, you could really start feeling the depth of each type of those songs getting deeper in ways we've never got to experience, if that makes sense. So like, for example, if you listen to a band that you just know, like when you listen to the self-titled Blink-182 record, it's got a vibe to it, right? It's kind of like that. It's different for them. And then obviously you can turn to something like, back in their heyday, and they're totally different things, but they're obviously the same band. The Mosaic to me is like, it's almost like 3 generations of our band jammed into one giant record, where we really got to just like, instead of doing one full record that was more synthwave or pop or relatable to that, like we really just got to be across the board, whatever we wanted to be. And with everybody contributing and taking it to new depths, it's just like, it really is like the most dynamic record we've ever done, but it's also like the most connected record to like everybody in the band, I think. And that, when Joe says it happened on accident with 18 songs, I think that's the coolest part, is because we never had that intention. And that we cared about each one so much because we did not have to do that, nor should we have done that, but we did.
Yeah, you guys clearly didn't have to do 18 songs on a whole record, especially in the day and age where streaming and singles are just dominating the music industry, not just rock and metal and any subgenre that's in there, but across every genre that you could possibly think of. And that's just the nature of the beast at the moment. And what I think another cool point around doing this double album specifically for you guys is 2 parts. One, if you want, you can break this up into multiple singles and put them out in multiple different ways and attract so many different people to check out Capstan, to check out the entire album. And it just can connect with so many different people that may have never even seen the band, just how much you guys go into. But when you brought up the fact that there's such a dedicated fan base behind this style of music, behind the scene, behind the depth of it, those kind of people, those are the ones that are really going to want a lot of substance there. They're going to want to sink their teeth into so much of your music. And those are the people that want to have that full album release. And the fact that you can go out and put out singles, but the fact there might be 14 or 13, 15 songs that are still there waiting for them to sink their teeth into, those dedicated fans are just going to be foaming at the mouth for this to come out. And that's why I think this is a fantastic idea, even in that right, on top of everything you guys are saying when it comes to the most full record you put out, going through 3 different generations, 3 different styles of Capstan to really come forward and put yourselves out there, putting out a record like the Mosaic that has this full feeling of this is who we were, this is who we are, and you can get a taste of where we're even going forward. But at the same time, you don't know exactly where we're going to go going forward because the experimentation on this album allows you guys to expand so much further, even beyond this after it comes out.
Yep.
Yeah, that's precisely correct. Yeah, I think, and I mean, like the single, like you mentioned, like it's cool because we totally agree. And like, but when you do have that many tracks, then yeah, you can release, like we've released now 5 singles from the record, or like the first 2 being in mid-October. And so like doing that, like having all the songs, and to also, like, once again, like you say, like keep people on their toes as well. Like the first 2 that we dropped like metalcore one and like the more like, pop punky, like, ballady song at the same time. So like it's been cool to kind of see people's reactions, like kind of keeping them guessing as we go. Like,
also some people will hate each next single because it's not at all what like they think or they want it to be, but it's almost like cool because then the next one coming is going to be like this totally other thing.
That's always an interesting piece I've seen in music too, and not only that, but with bands that are kind of like experimenting with a new style, new sound, and trying something different, whether it's for a couple of tracks or a full album. It's when they release stuff and, you get those fans that there's always going to be people that are going to be detractors that are always going to dislike something because it's not exactly the perfect way they had it put into their heads. But, over time, it's if those are the songs that you guys want to put out and those are the songs that have a lot of substance, a lot of depth, and really create that connection point between not only you guys and the fans, but also just the fans and the music in general. Those are the styles that really start to take on a life of their own. And those fans that were detractors at one point, just because it wasn't the exact way from the last album or a previous release, they start to understand the complexity and the beauty that is behind that song, behind this new style or this experimented style, and really take hold in it. I think about bands like Bad Omens in 2022 releasing The Death of Peace of Mind. So much different compared to what they did with some of the heavier stuff on their first 2 records. I wasn't a big fan of it at the beginning, but I knew how important it was and how artistically creative and important it was going to be. When Sleep Token came out last year with Take Me Back to Eden, not my style, but I'm like, this is something that is artistically brilliant, even if I'm not that big of a fan of it. And over time, because of the artistic brilliance, people that were detractors at one point or hesitant at one point tend to overcome that and tend to come and turn on to that song because they find some beauty in it that wasn't there on their initial listen through because of embedded idea that had them preventing that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, gosh, yeah.
You name, yeah. Oh, continue, Joe.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you named some incredible records, and I got 2 thoughts based off what you said that's really interesting. Number one, I think, I nowadays I like to digest content. And so maybe I want to, because now I'm in content, right?
Yeah.
So I want to also give a little bit of something that's actionable from being an artist. Cause I feel like that's what makes good content. Right. And 2 things that really come to mind, especially speaking on those bands and those records. Evolution is just a part of every band, or at least in ways it should be. Some take it a lot further than the other. But number one, I think a lot of bands are really afraid of testing the waters to something they feel in their heart. And they try to fit into what's popular, or they try to fit into what they think people want to hear from them, or they try to fit in what they think that will make them bigger. Right. One thing I'm really proud of us for, and that like I said, being actionable about is, like, bands out there, take chances, Like, try something different, try something new. It does not mean you have to write 18 songs. It doesn't mean you have to dip your toes in 10 different genres, like we did, and not even necessarily on purpose. But try different things. Like you said, like bands like Sleep Token, bands like Bad Omens, those bands, whether or not they were that same way when they started or they evolved to that, the only, like, Sleep Token's purely original. Like, you've never heard anything like a band like Sleep Token, and look at what they're doing. And they just do it so unapologetically from the top to the bottom. They just are them. And then a band like Bad Omens, a lot of people probably heard the before the Death of Peace of Mind blew up. A lot of people were probably like, what the hell is this? When it came out. And now, like, that's considered like one of the top best rock albums in the whole genre of like the last 5 years, like, considered, And so I'd say, like, take chances if you were a band, and like, don't pigeonhole yourself. And I think we've really embraced that. And I don't know if we're going to do a lot of 18 song records, but the second piece of actionable content, the idea that we had that I think is super important, is everybody has such short attention spans these days. And that is one thing we've really taken note of. Like, look at what's dominating the music industry. Some stupid shit like TikTok and short form content, Well, we're never going to be a band that like we always want to be releasing music, but we like having an artistic vision. That's who we are. We're always going to release singles, but sometimes bands just throw out like, oh, this random ass single followed by this random, and it's just all over the place, but they just keep doing it. While we want to keep pumping out music, I think one of the coolest things, like, for us and this release specifically, is that with 18 songs and being able to choose 7 or 8, even 9 singles, you're able to keep people's attention for a lot longer period of time. And so this is a little bit experimental for us on that end too, focusing more on the short form of the video, of the video content of the album. And you're just constantly staying on people's mind, instead of, oh, we dropped 2 singles, third single came out on album day, here's 10 songs. And like, the whole record that bands might have put a couple months or a year or more into blows over people's head in, a couple of weeks, a couple of months now. So we're trying something totally new. And so far the response has been like really, really cool. But I think Joe agrees with me. It has been a ton of work on the back end to do a record like this, a fuck ton of work.
Oh yeah. It's been a long process.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know if we'd ever want to do it again for that reason alone, but hey, we're in it now.
Yeah, you're in it now, but it does make sense exactly what you're saying, Boz. Just the fact that when bands and artists should take, stock into what they want to do and try and see what's in their heart and go and experiment and try something new, go against the grain and go against what, your fans might think your fans want, or what, the mainstream media wants. And the reason I say is because taking a look at the genre right now, what are the bands that are doing the best in terms of rock and metal? I'm going to include everybody in there. I think we've already talked about Sleep Token, totally original. Bad Omens changed up to what Noah said he more or less wanted to do with Death of Peace of Mind, and look at what happened with them. I Wrestle a Bear once turned into Spirit Box, and look at what they're doing. Lorna Shore went cinematic deathcore, and how big did they blow up overall? Bring Me the Horizon is kind of like the catalyst behind this, because they're always changing, they're always trying to do something new, and by doing that, they're the ones going out in the scene right now, and they're playing arenas that they're going to be headlining. That's not anything that is something to not look at. Look at Electric Callboy. They're having so much fun with everything they're doing. It is genuinely them. And it's something that you hadn't really seen that much before in terms of, metalcore having this more just fun, just whatever attitude to it. We're going to have fun with our music. We're not going to take it so seriously, but they blew up off of it. It's when bands are taking chances on what they want to do and are putting it out there is such an important thing. And we're seeing it pay off. So why other bands are trying to continue to stick in this small box of maybe what their fans want or what they think their fans want, or what the mainstream media wants, it's baffling to me. It makes no sense. And for a record that has 18 songs on it, I do agree with you totally, Boz. The attention span for people is insanely short, but it is something where you guys have the ability on this kind of a record to keep that attention span going and not only continue to cater to those fans, but for the fans that are super dedicated and want that album, by the time the album comes out, they're still going to have a huge chunk to dive into and to really invest themselves in that has not been released yet because you had so much music to put out. An artistic vision for this kind of style is so important because I've seen bands just kind of throw singles out there left and right. I've seen all that kind of stuff. And sometimes one hits, but then the next one, it's like, oh, that one really didn't hit or it didn't have this coercion to it, this continuousness to it. Or I've seen bands, oh, you put some out on TikTok, you put a teaser out. Oh, it blows up, but then there's no full song to it because they're playing that specific game. Well, then now you got to quickly put together a full version of it, full song. But by the time you put that together and put it out there, your time is up. It has passed. Everyone's moved on to the next thing. It is tough to do something like that, to have 18 songs and continue that artistic vision. A lot of work to be put in there, but you guys are in one hell of a position to make this work. That is something that is absolutely inspiring to, I think, everyone in the rock and metal world, where we still want to put out albums, we still want to have people sink their teeth into it, but how do we continue to do that in an ever-changing world where singles and short-form content are dominating everyone's attention?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad to hear you think so as well, because that's literally the plan, right? So yeah, we're excited that we kind of have that opportunity. It's like we didn't even really plan for that either, you know what I mean? But yeah.
Yeah, when I say we didn't plan for it, like if you obviously undertaking that from the beginning, I think you can prepare yourself a little bit more for all the back end stuff that comes with it. But I think we were blissfully ignorant going through the process, where then it was like, it was already too late to go back once we were like, we have to do this now. Like we didn't mean to, but now we have to do it. And so, yeah, I don't know. Like sometimes you just stumble into something that's meant to be. And that's part of the fun, right? A lot of bands forget to like, you also have to have fun, and with fun comes work. Yeah. Like we're trying something that requires like, it's a lot more work on our end, but I think it's a little crazy. And a lot of times that's how you like, I don't know, like cement yourself. And I don't know if this record necessarily is going to be for everyone. But I do think that there's a song for everyone on this record. And I think that's one of the coolest things. We may never be a band for everyone, but if someone actually sat down and listened to this one specific record when it comes out, I think there is at least one thing for you. So if you're out there, you never heard us before, check it out. You got to go through a lot of songs, but maybe you'll find something that you like, because we did literally a bit of everything.
I think you're absolutely right on that. There's going to be songs that people are not going to like based on how much you did, how many songs there are. It's simple math. It's probability. That just makes sense. But it's also probability that someone's going to find a song they like on this as well. Because if I'm going to go through it, there are certain songs where I listen, I'm like, you know what? Might not necessarily be for me. Might not fully be in there, but then I listen to something like, Misery Scene. I'm like, okay, now I'm feeling this. I totally get behind this. I go to a song like Arrow and I'm like, now this is something that I'm really connecting with. Not sure why, but fully feels like it. Then the song that you guys go full metalcore on and no clean vocals whatsoever, only uncleans. I was thrown off by that, but absolutely killer. So I'm just sitting here thinking, there's a good amount of songs that are here for you specifically on what you're expecting or what your tastes are. There's also a good amount of songs on here that might not necessarily fit within the idea or taste that you have, but you're going to be able to dive into and really get into based on the flow, based on the construction, and based on the content of the overall song and how those emotions are going to encapsulate you going forward. If you're open to that, there's going to be a lot more songs on this record that are really going to take to you because of the dynamic instrumentation, the dynamic complexities that you guys put together on this album and throughout all these songs.
So right, man. I think one of the coolest, I had a dream one night, and to me, this record, it's kind of like I grew up listening to Pink Floyd. And everybody knows like the handful of hits, right? Mm-hmm. But like if you sit down and listen to like Dark Side of the Moon, for example, like even me, like I love Pink Floyd, but I don't want to go to track 7 like necessarily and like just put that on randomly. But when I listen to that, when you sit down with almost like it's like I already have it in my head that I'm going to listen to this from start to finish. Well, that while each song has its feeling, that's why we wrote this record. It's like watching a movie. There's plenty of parts of your favorite movies that you don't like and you don't care about, but you look at the sum of all parts, you know. And I think that this record is like very much like a movie for us, or like that Dark Side of the Moon. Person A out there may not like tracks 2, 12, 17, you know, but they might find enough pieces where they're like, as a whole, they're like, I love that movie. I love that record, you know? And like, I just am like, yeah, dude, like, hopefully people don't feel overwhelmed by that, that many songs, but it's cool to say that we're doing something like that. Cause, yeah, like I said, I don't think we'll ever plan to do it again. I mean, maybe if we're together in 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, like I said too, I mean, we're all just like, we're album people. Like, you know, we listen to albums front to back. Not everyone likes that. I know, yeah, me and Scott were both talking about how we're like, you know, in your Spotify Wrapped, it's like you finish like 99% of the albums you started or whatever. Like it's like I don't know, it's some of our like favorite ways to really. I enjoy, you know, the long form piece of music, like especially, you know, a real good album, any of the greatest albums, like they have themes and they have, you know, just you can tell that, or they have a vibe or a feeling, whatever, like the whole thing front to back. Like, you know, any true great classic album is like, you know, you gotta appreciate the whole thing. Even if, you know, there's always going to be tracks that aren't as good as some of the other ones, but like, I don't know, I don't believe in skip tracks.
0 skips, 18 tracks.
0 skips, 18 tracks. Don't want to miss out on it. And I have a suggestion for everyone to listen to this album. Is what you should do is get the whole album, no shuffle, no skip, start to finish. Just get in your car, drive and listen to it. Really get yourself immersed in the fact that, you know, when you're driving, you know, of course you got to pay attention to the road, but a lot of people just get entranced with music and really feel the entirety of it when you're driving, because you're just surrounded by it. You're in a small little cabin in the car or truck or SUV, whatever it is, and you're just fully immersed in that experience right then and there. I still remember, like, right before the pandemic, I was, listening to a couple albums, just really didn't get into them. And then I put on Polaris's The Death of Me while driving from Milwaukee to Madison to go to the Sylvie to go see a show. And I listened to it all the way there. On the way back, I'm like, I got to listen to this whole entire thing again, because there's got to be something that I really enjoyed it. But I'm like, there's something that I missed, but I want to go through the whole experience again, because the way those songs are placed in a track list, there's a story to be told. There's an emotion to be told. They're put in that listing for a reason. So go fully immerse yourself in that experience. And when I got through that album again, I was like, I found one of my favorite songs of all time by doing that once again. And I suggest everyone does that with the Mosaic as well, because you're going to be able to be entrenched with the overall emotion of this album from start to finish and really get the full feel of it without distractions of your phone or without distractions of TV, or just like the fact that you're trying to scroll through TikTok while listening to this. You're not going to be scrolling through TikTok if you're behind the wheel of a car. And if you are, that's a different problem in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I totally agree with the, you know, the sort of focused listening that you get when you're like in the car. Like that's my favorite place to listen to albums as well. Like, you know, and we end up driving a lot of too. I mean, obviously with like touring, like on the road, like, yeah. But, yeah, either that or like my other thing I do like to do sometimes is like if you're just like hanging out, maybe like having a couple drinks or something, like, but just like put your phone away for a bit and just like sit and like listen to music. Like, you know, like I feel like
people forget how to do that now.
Yeah, like, you know, just like even just in your house or whatever, like, you know, put on. But it's nice to do that once in a while as well.
I think that's one of the coolest things about vinyl coming back is like putting on a record, and like actually having that experience, feeling it, putting it in a record player, sitting down, maybe having some coffee, or like Joe said, a couple of drinks, like that's like such a cool way to have an experience like it. And we're obviously going to press vinyl. We love that. It's such a cool thing. But yeah, definitely with 18 songs, you kind of said it best, Kevin. Some of my favorite records of all time that like top to bottom, I have found myself like after first listen being like, what the hell was that? Like you're kind of mad. You're like, oh, this wasn't what I wanted. And like it's so funny that like my favorite records to this day that end up being timeless, like you have to give them second and third tries. Because a lot of time your people's brains just want their band to be their band that they fell in love with, right? Especially if that band, if you have preconceived notions of that band because you've heard them before. So like that, especially with us, people that know Capstan, listen to it a few times, and you're gonna find some really cool stuff that we put in there. And people that have never listened to our band, like I said, maybe you'll have to listen to the old stuff to then understand the new stuff too. So listen to it a couple times because I think that's the only way you'll truly appreciate it.
Oh God, yeah, and that comes from like any band as well too. Because I still remember, I mean, I'm wearing my "We Came as Roman" shirt right now. It took me a year to. I love the name, and I'm like, I just can't get the vibe, and it's just I couldn't really get behind some music. It took me, but I stayed open to it. Then I heard one of their songs called "Wasted Age" back in 2020. I'm like, now this is my starting point. I love this. This is what I was expecting. It allowed me to go into so much more. That's what I love about Mosaic as well, because there's going to be a song that's going to connect with people from what they're expecting, what they want from you guys, but it's going to be that open door to just what else is possible, what else can you get through. So listening through this a couple of times and having that moment where you can listen to it and not have those distractions where, you know, just the way the world is, sit in the garage and listen to it, just start a bonfire or something, listen to it, get the vinyl pressing of it and have that full on experience, you know, feed the vinyl player right here, just feed me good Capstan music, all that good kind of shit. That's the kind of stuff you got to do in order to really just enjoy and not necessarily like have to enjoy it this way, but that I think is the best way to just kind of also unplug and even for mental health purposes.
Exactly.
Why not do something like that? We're always talking about positive mental health. That's a way to have positive mental health and listen to good music and get into Capstan. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Very much agree.
Man, I should definitely like try and do a different video of that and just put that all together and maybe like the most epically great but also poorly produced like TikTok video and then promote the album that way.
The quick cuts and the zoom ins. And the point, yeah, dude,
the explosions and everything.
Exactly. This one podcast puts it all together. It's the game changer.
Explosions,
everything.
Lasers, puppies, Capstan podcast. You know, I got some time. I might try and make that happen.
Hell yeah.
Well, guys, of course, now the album's going to come out again on May 24th. You guys already went out on tour with Holy in Absence earlier this year, but what else does the rest of the year have hold for you guys? What can we expect from the rest of the year? Because there's got to be more. I know there's got to be more.
Yeah, when is this being released?
Probably sometime in April.
Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, I mean, we'll be announcing it soon then, but we're going out May to June supporting Belmont and Can't Swim.
Wait, what?
Yeah, they're doing a part 2 of that tour, and it's unannounced at this moment, so it will be a little bit late in the game that it gets announced. But yeah, they're doing a co-headliner, and we're gonna be direct support for that run. Kind of got it all figured out late. So yeah, late third week of May to third week of June.
Yeah,
right.
It's like May 18th to like June 22nd or something like that. I think but it should be announced actually probably any day now. So keep your eyes peeled.
Okay, that'll
be right.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, go for it, Kev.
I was gonna say that makes me even more excited. All right, we had a crazy, you know. Yep, we had a crazy moment, but I was gonna say I did see Bozzy wearing the Belmont shirts. That makes me more excited. I did get to see the Belmont Capstan first part of the tour or the first leg, and it was insane just how much fun it was. And I remember I'm like, man, Capstan would actually fit on this. You may have gone on tour with Belmont before and I saw it. I just can't remember if you guys did, but
it was years ago. It was 20, or no, actually we toured with them twice. Yeah, but yeah, 2021 as well.
That was it. Yep. Yeah, I saw the show in 2021.
Tiny moving. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
We but to finish your question too, so that will be going on around the time we drop the new record. So we might play an extra song or two from the record, which will be fun. But then we'll also, I mean, obviously this comes out in May, probably won't have anything announced yet. Nothing set in stone, but but we're also going to be trying to finish out the year with a big swing tour. So keep your eyes peeled with that. Maybe we'll get stuck touring the winter again because we do every single year for some reason. But yeah, sometime October, November, December, somewhere in there, we're also going to do another tour of some kind.
All right, well, that's perfect. And I was a big supporter of that, again, Belmont Can't Swim Tour. So now you guys are going to be on the second part of it. My hopes for that is, one, it's going to be somewhere where I'm going to be able to go and see the show, because there is no way I want to miss that. And hopefully...
Where you're in Milwaukee? Yeah. Shit. I think there is one. It might be like an Illinois, like weird area, but I think it's supposed to be something like that. But that might be a bit of a drive.
I mean, if it's like another, because like I know Belmont's from Chicago. If it's another Chicago date, that's no problem for me.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Well, we may not be playing Chicago proper though, but we might be around there.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it could be like an outer Illinois date, but I mean, we'll know for sure soon. But yeah, I would love to see you again.
I'm going to keep my eye out on that one, because that show was so much fun when I saw it, and adding you guys to the mix now, I'm just like, okay, that's got to happen. And my full-time job be damned, I'm still going to go do it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, before we go out, I got one more question for you guys, and it's something I like to ask every band that I bring on, every artist I bring on. It's my way to not only get other people to know about new music, but get more people to know about the music that you love as well. So between the two of you, can you guys give me 3 bands or artists that you would love to see more people get into and get more exposure on?
I mean, I have one because it was a few months ago now, but one of my longtime favorite bands who I feel like just does not get the cred they deserve, not nearly. They put out their first record in 9 years, actually. So, but Closure in Moscow. If anyone has not listened to that band, you should definitely listen to, all of their stuff, but their new record it's amazing, but it's very different and just very cool and super original and unique. And I just can't say enough about it. That was definitely my album of the year last year. But yeah, they're from Australia, and they've been around for a very long time, and they have a huge cult following. They're not like huge, but like most people don't like really know them. So I always like plug them because they're just one of my favorites.
I have found some love with this band. They have multiple singers, but I'm pretty sure the main singer is a female, so female fronted. They're called Sweet Pill. I have really started to stumble on some of their stuff, and they mix some really cool like modern emo and almost post-hardcore vibes with like what I grew up with, which is like Midwest math rock. So like the tappy kind of almost like tiny moving parts, but heavier, and a girl vocalist. And it's like really interesting and awesome. And like, I kind of have been following them because I think they like have like that it factor. So Sweet Pill, check them out.
All right, we got Closure in Moscow, Sweet Pill. I need one more.
I feel like honestly, most people who are listening to this probably already know this band, but I'll also say just Honey Revenge.
Not gonna lie, I think Honey Revenge has been the most like said artist when I asked that question.
Dude, that makes total sense. That's why I was like, I feel like people are already gonna have heard that a billion times. But yeah, I just like them. They're nice people. They're cool. Like I've followed them for like a while. Before they were even a band. Like, I remember their guitarist when Separate came out. Actually, like did a playthrough of the solo from Noose, and like I've just followed them since then. So.
Yeah, I would say I had him on the podcast back in like June of last year before their album came out, and I'm like, this is a fantastic band. We got to get more people to know about them, and more people just keep saying great things about them. So just keep the positivity rolling.
And honorable mention, our boys in Acres from the UK. Check them out.
Yeah,
those
that's a
boys
good one
deserve
too.
More hype. They're an incredible band. Great
They're
live.
A great band.
They have a great like what Joe like modern Deftones kind of.
They're more in the kind of in the new, like new core. In a way,
the new core,
like I would
yeah,
say. Yeah, but yeah, they're cool.
Very cool. Listen to them.
Well, instead of doing 3 and an honorable mention, we're just gonna call that a full 4, and we're just gonna go with that.
4. I love it.
Hell yeah.
Full 4. Well, guys, I do want to thank you for taking the time today for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it. I'm going to close this out with 3 specific things. So first things first, the Mosaic, the double album by Capstan, comes out on May 24th. And they did talk about that Belmont Can't Swim tour, which I'm like, we gotta go and see. Also, you're going to want to follow along with them because there's going to be more coming out from them, more singles that are going to be dropping, more content you want to be a part of, and you're just going to want to know more and support these guys. When the vinyl comes out, you're going to want to get the merch and get the pressing. So what's the best way to go and make sure you're following with Capstan and everything? Description of the podcast where it says find Capstan online. There'll be links and labels for everything, social media, YouTube, merch, website, where you can get contacts, where you can stream the Mosaic, buy the Mosaic, everything around there. I'm going to do all the hard work for you. I'm going to be Google on this one. All you got to do is go to the description of the podcast. It's all right there. So don't worry about that. And it looks like Boz's phone may have died or he had to go in, but whatever. We had them for the most part, but I'll say bye to you on by myself. So now it's time for number 2. Boz missing out on this, but you're getting this. When I guess you guys perform live next, I will go all Liam Neeson on your asses. I will look for you. I'll pursue you. I will find you. And I promise you when I do is this. First round's on me.
Yo, looking forwad to that for real. This has been a real pleasure though, Kevin. Thank you so much for having us.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you, Joseph. Also, thanks to Boz. If, I'm pretty sure his phone probably died because I'm not surprised if that would happen. But thank you guys once again. I would love to be back in the podcast again in the future. I did make a promise to you, so this is not goodbye. This is, I'll see you later.
See you later, Kevin.
Well, folks, this is my interview with Joseph and Boz from the band Capstan. Now it's time for Kevin's final thought. A double album is insane, especially in this day and age. But for a band like Capstan, it actually works and it makes sense. What I love about what Capstan did on this album, well, this double album, I should say, is they had the freedom to experiment and they tried so many different things that they want to do. They honed in their overall style and sound of being creative, being different, and trying all these different things. But instead of trying to pack them all into one song, they packed them into an album from song to song. So you get a better understanding and flow and a better connection to these songs. You're not getting lost as some people might potentially do. I get it. I understand it. It does happen. What I really liked about the album overall was just the fact that you listen through a lot of these songs, there's going to be one or two that when you listen to it, it's going to be the exact thing you wanted for that type of song. There's going to be a lot of them where you're like, I'm not sure about this. This song might be a little bit different for me. But what really comes forward in the end is the fact that these songs all make sense once you just open up to them. This album is all about opening up to the experience of life. And that's something that gets lost in the world as well. There are so many things that we're, consumed within life and busy with, whether it's your full-time job, whether it's whatever's going on this thing, whether it's your Snappy Chatty or your Tiki-Taki or your Facebooky or your Instagram. And yes, you can probably see 2 of me in this right now because I want to try and do something like this. Or there's a TV behind me, whatever's on media, whatever's in the internet, whatever it could be. There's so many distractions in life and there's so many things that we're trying to get done where we miss out on some of the beauty in life. And that's what this album really kind of shows. Is, there's all different sides of life, the good and the bad, but if you take your time and just enjoy this album, just sink yourself into it, you're going to find so much beauty in it, and I think that's one of the greatest things that Capstan could have done. So go and make sure you follow along with Capstan. Make sure you know when new music is coming out, when the album drops, how this all goes, when that tour with Belmont and Can't Swim is happening, and where to go get tickets and where to go get merch to support these guys. Description of the podcast below says find Capstan online, links and labels for everything are going to be there, so you guys will not miss out on it. I'm your own personal Google once again, so go and check it out. Also, make sure you follow the Chord Progression Podcast. Description of the podcast. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hit subscribe on the podcast right down here on YouTube to make sure you see every single episode every single Tuesday and Thursday and our reactions every single Friday as well. Along with, we are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Full episodes every Tuesday and Thursday as well, so you don't miss a beat there if you just like the audio version of it. Also, be sure to like the video and like those episodes as well. Push us in the algorithm. Helps us get to know more new music and get more new music out there in the world. Thank you guys once again. Thank you, Boz. Thank you, Joseph. I really appreciate your time. And on that note, that's going to be for you guys. Thank you for listening to the Chord Progression Podcast. My name is Kevin, and you guys know how every single one's obsessed with the You guys know how every single one's up to the big, healthy, and hearty. See ya! Yeah.